Welcome everyone to our next instalment of Every Company Has a Story. I'm joined by Nick Zborowski. Make sure I pronounce that right, Nick. Is that correct?
You nailed it. Yep.
Brilliant. Who's the senior director at the marketing store in the production services team. TMS, the marketing store, are one of our values clients, and they are a global company uniting technology, marketing and sourcing to make sure that they can deliver transformational change. Is that correct, Nick?
That is correct. But I feel like we're of course, more than that, right? We try to be a partner. So we've got great people at TMS. And like you said, technology, marketing, sourcing is kind of our bread and butter, but we do kind of everything. And when we're connecting with brands and clients, we're looking to see kind of what your need is. Because we have multiple solutions that we can kind of bring to the table to kind of help you out, right? Games and sweeps and packaging, retail experience, digital channel experience, brand and activation. We can kind of do it all. So, we really like to kind of connect with our clients and our brands and partner to figure out what the best solution is. So, yeah, it's kind of what we are.
Perfect. So, diving straight into the topic for our audience. So, how do you do that? How do you unite technology, marketing and sourcing to provide transformational change?
Sure. Yeah. So like long gone are the days of, making a pretty picture and putting it out there as an advertisement, right? That just doesn't cut it anymore. You need technology, you need data, and you need to be able to do it kind of at a decent cost, right? So, TMS pulls those three things together to basically, help our clients get as much ROI as they can, right? Clients are having problems with budgets right now, as I'm sure everyone's kind of dealing with. And, how do you do that? How do you get into that? So, bundling these services together always kind of gives you a discount on basically the complete package of things, but it gives you, longevity with some of these things. So a great example is, our work with Comtech. So we have been kind of working on a project for McDonald's. It is a Power Up project, which is basically like a digital extension to a Happy Meal tour, right? So you get more kind of play out of that. Well, we did it in the US and it was English only, but we basically created this game and templatized it where it could be used globally, right? So our clients are combining some of those global budgets and things like that. So that's when we, had the conversations with Comtech to kind of see what we could do for variations on this game, right? So right now we are basically putting out one of these games every 3 weeks or so. To multiple countries. Sometimes it's only 3, so you're translating in 3 languages, but other times it's up to 60, 70 languages. So you're basically building that template, and you have the ability to kind of push it out to multiple areas to kind of get more bang for your buck. So I think that's one of the kind of the big things that our clients are kind of seeing and kind of trying to get that push. So that technology and the marketing kind of together, and all of that data information basically is a nice little bundle. And the sourcing part of it, then you have the ability to kind of, create things at a cheaper discounted price.
Perfect. So my next question, so how do you, because TMS is huge and the projects that you do really do, I know firsthand, drive transformational change, but how do you balance being that sort of global business with getting that local level engagement?
Sure. Yeah, I think there's definitely benefits to that, right? So we're around the world, so you've kind of got that global connection where we can always kind of flex up if we have bigger projects that need to kind of span across different countries, different languages, things like that. But the benefit to having all of these offices is we're in different local areas too, right? So, we're never too far from our client base, and we have a better understanding of kind of what the local needs are because we're in those areas. So I think connection is a big thing, right? So connection globally and connection to your local area.
Yeah, perfect. And in the work that you're doing, what trends are you seeing at the moment? I think that would be useful for our audience to hear about.
Well, I think it's the funny one of AI, if
Yeah.
you're looking in your
Yeah.
feed, I'm sure AI is everywhere and you either love it or you hate it. But it's out there. And I think it's one of those trends that, I don't want to spend too much time on because I'm sure, there's a million different things that you're already hearing about, but it's one of those things that I feel like it's out there. And it's adapt or die, right? Like you need to kind of look into that. You need to incorporate that into your business model. Is it going to, put out full ads and movies and all of that? No, not quite yet. But I think it's out there and it can help you and assist you. Like I mentioned earlier, like, the data and kind of the technology, helping marketing. I think AI is going to help that as well too. Maybe not as much at the beginning, but you see those trends that it's growing and it's gaining information day by day. So it's one of those things that I think that everybody needs to kind of connect with earlier, rather than there, or you're going to be out of the game. What else? Loyalty. I think loyalty's been around for a while. A lot of the big clients have already kind of adapted to it and have that loyalty program, but you're seeing refreshes on those. You're seeing, new pushes to kind of get into the digital market. I think COVID really helped everybody kind of get into, using your apps for ordering and all of that kind of stuff. I know in my family, I'm never going through the drive-through again because my kids have like no pickles, no onions, like whatever for their McDonald's order. So it's just that much easier. But so I know McDonald's has definitely kind of done a revamp on kind of pushing that out as well. But a lot of the smaller clients are looking to get into that as well too, right? You want that longevity, you want that connection with your consumers. So how do you keep that loyalty? I think that's kind of a big thing. And then what else do we have? AI, 3D. I think 3D is another big push right now. It's been in the car advertising world forever, right? Like I don't think there's a car advertisement out there with a real car in it. It hasn't been that like that for 10 years. But when you're selling a car, it's a bigger business than selling a burger, right? And I think the technology has advanced quite a bit at this point where it's not as expensive in the quality that you're getting out of some of those 3D programs with the textures and things like that are far advanced. So you're seeing this more in kind of QSRs and things like that, where they're starting to adapt or, create some backgrounds and things like that for 3D. So I definitely think, 3D with AI, with loyalty, with data, like it's all going to kind of connect and, it's technology-driven advertising is kind of the way to go at this point. And most agencies are doing that. And TMS especially, we're connecting on all of these levels and keeping a close eye on all of that with our clients and trying to figure out the best solutions to use some of that. Because any of that technology, you're gaining efficiencies, right? When you're creating things in 3D, it's not just like a shot, right? You can rotate it, you can change the angle, you can change the lighting. There's longevity to some of that stuff. So, it's all about how we're spending our clients' dollars as wisely as we possibly can.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. I think I obviously AI, we see it as well, but and the loyalty apps, but the 3D is just fascinating how it's kind of evolving and how it can help brands.
Definitely, and I think it's one of those things that like you don't know unless you know, and
exactly.
That's the great thing about 3D. That's the key of 3D, like because you don't know that it's 3D, you don't know that it's not real at this point. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So how can a smaller brand benefit from engaging with such a full service agency as TMS?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you don't need to be intimidated by that by any means. I mentioned earlier about all the services that we can help provide, right? So there's different opportunities in different areas, but TMS is used to working with different timelines, smaller budgets, bigger budgets, what have you, we can jump in and kind of work and partner with whatever client we have come our way to kind of come up with the best solutions. And, I just don't be scared because it's a bigger agency. I mean, there's lots of opportunities to kind of work together. And in the part of the bigger agency, a global agency, is we have the benefit of, coming up with bulk discounts because, we're working on larger clients and things like that. So we can find you great deals with working with us.
Mhm. And can you talk to me a bit about those larger clients and the kind of projects you do?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm based out of Chicago. So I work in our US office. Just a couple of clients that I work with are McDonald's and many different facets of McDonald's, from their, retail experience, which would be, their menu boards, their POP in store, to, like I mentioned, Happy Meal and the Power Program, and packaging, and kind of all of the Happy Meal work. McDonald's is enormous, and it's great to work on because there's so many different pieces and kind of connections, and they're so global and so, I guess, forefront, that it's a great client, and it never really gets stale. It's always exciting. I also work on Chicago Board of Options and Exchanges. So that is a finance company that basically it's based out of Chicago. So we've done some work for them. T-Mobile Tuesdays, our agency does all of the work for them as well too. Coke within McDonald's. So any of those, if you're in the US and you see that, buy a Coke for $1 or dollar drinks, a lot of that kind of work is coming out of our Coke clients, and work with them. So so those are some of the bigger ones that we work with, but there's all kinds of work that's always coming through the agency.
Yeah, perfect. So I know that to service your clients, you've got, and those three sort of parts of your business, there's sort of technology, marketing, and sourcing, that you must have a high level of talent. And I always like to ask this question, but what would be your advice to like talent starting out in agency life?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of those things that's kind of important. Like, you're watching Mad Men, you think, agency life is kind of like that. It's definitely changed since the Mad Men times. But it is fun, and it is exciting. But I feel like, depending on where you go, the community and the vibe basically of agency life is different. So my first thing would be find somewhere that you fit in. Because it's all about community. It's all about relationships. That's what basically everything that you do in life is about, relationships, right? So how you connect to those people that you work with. So, really do your research and kind of look into that. But as far as like, once you get there, what you need to do, like my first thing, and it's like, it's like being a dad, like what I tell my kids is like, be nice, right? So, be as nice as you can. I feel that everyone at some point should work in kind of the service industry. So that's, whether that's, food or retail, something like that. I feel like, then you get an experience of like, how people act to you and how you react to them. That customer that's going to come in and yelling at you that they want an exchange, like, you're not really going to want to like put out that extra effort for them. But somebody that's nice, you're going to do whatever you want for them, right? Like you're going to connect with them better, right? So be nice. Feel like that will get you, very far in life, in everything. Just be nice. But ask questions and continue to learn. It's that thing of like, you go through college, and it's like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Well, I think you never have to just grow up and be that one thing. As you go through your career and you learn different things, you can adjust your career. I mean, in the ad agency world, it's always changing anyway. So where do you want to be? Do you want to be more connected with technology? Do you want, how can you learn? And I feel like I'm one of those people that I like change. I get bored. I'm weird like that. So the more I can learn, the more I enjoy my job. So ask questions. And then the other one is work your butt off, right? Especially as you're starting off your career, you will get noticed if you're working your butt off. And that's what gets you to the next level and the next level and the next level. I mean, get somewhere where you can work, where that the other people are working their butts off for you too, right? So it's that sense of respect and just going out there and you're going to do an awesome job for an awesome client.
Yeah, perfect. And I know you guys have a brilliant internship program while we're on the subject of talent.
We do, and they basically just started on Monday.
Oh,
So
wow.
so it's pretty great. Every spring we work with young professionals that are either still in college or just starting out their career to come in and work for TMS. It could be any discipline basically that we have: creative, accounts, finance, production, digital asset management, strategy, any of those. And we bring in an internship team basically that works hand in hand with the mentors, and they work on a bunch of projects, whatever they can, for the entire summer. So it's not one of those internships where it's like, hey, go get us coffee or anything like that. Like,
No.
we want to connect, right? We want,
Yeah.
it's a relationship once again, right? So we're going to get you involved with as much as we possibly can, so you can learn about agency life, you can learn about different disciplines, because that's the other thing. Like, when you're just starting out, you may not even know what any of those disciplines are, but as soon as you get involved with agency life, you can at least see, and it's like, okay, maybe I don't want to go that way, I want to go this way, and
Yeah.
in connecting with the interns and mentoring beyond the internship, I think is kind of the goal of it, right? So the mentors are getting something, they're getting a little bit of help on all the projects that they have coming through, but like, then the interns get experience that, like, you're not going to get anywhere else. So we're going to pull you into everything that we have, and it's super exciting. And the internship program has led to many hires into TMS. So it's a great feeder system for them and for us. So yeah, I think next spring, if you're out there and you're looking at stuff, definitely hit me up, because I love great interns.
Oh, good to hear. That was all the questions that I had. I'm just going to ask on our audience, if you've got any questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A of the Zoom on the bottom panel there. While our audience is thinking, I did have one that came to my head. So if I am a new client, I decided that I need help from a marketing agency. I've done my market research. I've chosen TMS from the sales calls and the other briefings that I've done. What does onboarding look like?
Sure. Yeah. So, we're probably going to get a lot of information as we're kind of, working through kind of the beginning RFP portion of things. But the onboarding process is basically us sitting down and kind of looking at your needs. What is the problem that you have as a client, right? What are you trying to get out of this? And I feel it's one of those things that sometimes clients have an idea of what they want, but not how to get there, or they have an idea of how to get there, but not exactly what they want. So partnering with TMS and sitting down and kind of really getting into the strategy of the needs of the client and the business, and what is the ultimate goal? Are you trying to get more app adoption? Are you trying to get more awareness? Are you just trying to increase the dollar per transaction? Like, what is the goal? And really kind of coming up with the strategy on how we can work best with you, our best options, kind of pulling the team together and really starting to build that partnership, that relationship, right? So so it's more of a connection. We're never looking to be a vendor, we're looking to be a partner. So I feel like the deep dive into kind of what you're looking for, and then TMS is going to basically go back and we're going to come up with a strategy and a plan to kind of implement what you're looking for, having a better idea of what the budget is, kind of what the timeline is, and kind of go from there. And it's one of those things that we can always kind of adjust as we're going along, but we want to have a good idea of where we're headed to make sure that we have the correct team pulled together to basically implement what you are looking for. And then from there, hopefully things are growing and things are, getting better, and we're accomplishing the goals that the client has, and it's what it usually happens. And then, possibly, a regroup after that, just to kind of build on that relationship and see where else we can go and where else we can kind of partner.
Yeah, I guess because you become the extension of your client's internal team, so then you have as much insights to give, I guess, as you get into the weeds of the detail of working on projects.
That's definitely right. We're going to do that deep dive into what is the market doing? What are other people doing? And hopefully give them more insights into their business that maybe they weren't looking at. Just because we do have that that global extension, or that localized information ability to kind of gather all of that together.
Yeah, I think that would be my advice for using a marketing agency. Being a marketer myself, so you're so in the detail of the day to day, and having that objective guiding voice from somewhere else who can be like, hey, have you thought about that? It's just gold dust, because it takes the pressure off, and it just suddenly opens up that creativity that can sometimes get a bit locked down in the sort of day-to-day management of your KPIs.
That's exactly right. I think everybody at this point is, as I mentioned, kind of budgets are short, and the work is harder. So everybody's heads down, right? So, we have that ability to kind of give you those insights, like you mentioned, right? Because when you're in something, you could look at it a million times and not see that, one spelling mistake in there, and, somebody else sees it, and it's the first thing that kind of glares at them. So yeah, I mean, the same kind of thing. We're there to kind of be your eyes and ears.
Brilliant. We've had a question from Elaine. Hello, do you feel globalization is making the world a smaller or a bigger place? As in, do TMS feel that the world being more open and accessible actually makes us realize how we can be so different across countries and cultures?
That's interesting. I feel like it depends on what it is, right? I feel sometimes that the world is a smaller place. There's so much more connection than there ever was. I feel even in my career, my 20+ career, that the advancements of globalization has greatly expanded. I think it's almost per project. I feel like, sometimes, as we're talking about some of that power of work that we're doing, it's like in creating those different languages and kind of pushing that out. It's like, yes, okay, there's differences, but it's not that different. Everybody, kind of gets in it. But then there's some other things that just doesn't translate, right? It's doing this in the US, like we kind of joked earlier, that there are certain sayings that come out of the UK or the US that are totally different. We're like, wait, what are you talking about? No idea what you're talking about. I think some of that, it gets a little bit lost in translation. So I think there's a way to kind of get around that, but some things need to be localized. I think some things need to be location driven, but other things I think you have the ability to be global. Sorry, I know that was kind of a roundabout answer that didn't really answer it, but I think it all just depends on what it is. But the connections between the globe, I think, is interesting, because then you have more of a realization that wait, this won't work. Where before, if it was a bigger world, you just assumed that it would work, or you just assumed that it didn't. I feel like since we are more connected now, you have a better insight into what does and doesn't work.
Yeah, I agree. And I know that from our cultural services, that we have a lot of insight also to give on that point, Elaine, where it's, usually if something isn't resonating, whether it's a team that you're managing in a different country or a campaign, it usually is to do with something not translating. Whether it's between team members or a piece of marketing content. And it's very much our and TMS's bag to kind of make sure they do resonate, and to put our recommendations to how you should adjust them. I think with the world being more global, I think it's enabled us to realize those nuances a little bit more, and be more sort of aware of them. But I don't know if that's just because I work in the industry, so I'm sort of hyper focused on them. I don't know if that would be across the board.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because I think that, as we're working on some of these programs that are more global, and it's opened up my eyes to see different things that are this is offensive over here, or, this is not acceptable over here. And things that you would never really kind of think about, but it's making us a more inclusive kind of world, right? I feel, we're navigating some of those things to include everyone in that, but it's new things every day that you're kind of finding out, because I don't live everywhere in the world, so having those global offices that can kind of speak up for what works and what doesn't, I think is is a huge win.
Yeah, I've had a question just direct message to me saying my manager wants me to use AI more in my marketing comms. Would this be something that I should challenge or adopt?
I think you need to adopt it. I think it's one of those things where you need to find the right AI, like anything, right? I feel like there's a million AI, versions out there. And is it a closed AI? Does it have the ability to learn? I think it's one of those things that you need to do your research, find the right one. But I definitely think that it can kind of help. I sat in on a conversation basically a couple of weeks ago that they were talking about AI and where it can help. And they said it can help out with the time vampires, which I thought was an interesting kind of comment. Just because it's like, those things that like, oh, I have to do this and it's going to be a little bit of a time suck. And, how do I knock this out? I think that's where right now that it can help. But, as you're integrating into AI, you are seeing that growth, right? The more that you're involved with it, the more that you will basically be able to learn it easy as it is expanding, as it has, more legs to kind of help out with things. There's that 80-20 rule right now that I'm hearing a lot with AI. 80% of it is pretty great. 20% of it is like absolute garbage. So, I wouldn't just take the faith of like, oh yeah, AI did it and we're good. I mean, it's one of those
Lift
things.
and shift that, put it on my website.
And done. Yeah, no, totally. I think it's one of those things that you totally need to kind of look into, to check out, to make sure that the content is what you're looking for. But I definitely think you need to adapt to it, right? One of my colleagues mentioned that like AI is going to be like electricity. Everybody needs it to do their job, or Wi-Fi or whatever, it's just going to be another tool in everyone's arsenal. And, it's just like learning a new program. Everybody had to take the time to learn Zoom, to learn Teams, to do all of that, to kind of get into, this kind of new world as we're working more remotely or working globally, right? Where we can kind of connect. I think it's the same thing. You need to take the time to kind of learn, to see what's out there, and everyone needs to be connected on it. We talked about in the agency of like, should there be like an AI team? And once again, no, because it's just going to be part of your job, and how it assists your job will differ, right? So being in production, it's going to help our team differently than it is going to help the creative team, or, help the account team, or finances, or things like that. So I definitely think it's something we're going to all have to learn.
Yeah, I mean, we've always had it in our industry, in the sort of localization industry, and we very much use it with our translations, but we look at it as it frees up the humans to do what they're good at. So, like proofreading and, transcreation, that translating the ideas, not just the content, all those cultural and gender nuances. But, I think it's definitely part of, as you say, like integrated into free up us more rather than replace.
And I think it's something that you can tout to your clients as well, too. Look, we're trying to be as efficient as we possibly can. Like you just said, I want to focus my talent on where my talent should be focused, not all this other paperwork that needs to be done, So, I think it's I don't know. I think it's cool. I think it's really cool.
We can have an hour about just discussing
we
AI,
totally could. and just the growth that it's taking, like from a week ago where it is now, in a month, in a year, it has that ability to just kind of grow multiple times on top of itself. And I think I don't know, it's nerdy and cool, right? Like I dig all that kind of stuff.
And I've had one other question to me. So like in an economic downturn, is your advice to marketing departments? How can they get the most bang for their buck?
Communication. I feel like, that's having a better idea of what budgets are with your marketing agency helps them. I had a project a while ago that was like, we didn't know what the budget was. So we went out there with, this project that was this. And then we heard that it was this, so, but we've lost 2 weeks. So the more time you have with a smaller budget, the more you can kind of utilize that budget and kind of get into, cost efficiencies and things like that. So it's the time, quality, or budget, right? It's always those three. You can only get two, but that's not always the case. But I feel like communication, talking about what the goals are, right? In an economic downturn, I feel like goals change, right? What are you looking for at this point? Are you just trying to, when things are great, you're looking for adoption on digital and, just more connections, but like, then you're getting into dollar and cents when things aren't going great. So, how can you get that ROI? What do you have to work with? Where do you want to go? So basically honesty, communication with your marketing clients or your marketing team and your clients, just basically being on the same page. So, two heads are better than one, that whole saying, like that's where we're going with this, right? We're going to look to be as efficient as we possibly can. We want to keep you as a client. We want you to succeed because when you succeed, we succeed. So let's go at this. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, no, I love that kind of question. And I know we were discussing it before we started today that and from my side, I was talking about it to my team, because obviously, you have to work harder in marketing at the moment. And I think that my advice would be that test messaging and learn fast, that you can do that pretty much, without costing a lot. I would sweat existing assets, so any assets that you're proud of, sweat them, and build a human brand that early adopters can engage with. I'd say I know that can take more money, but definitely the first two, the testing and the sweating assets.
Definitely. And I think that, testing is a great thing at this point now, right? Like we're in a digital age, everything can be kind of adjusted kind of on the fly. And I think that's the huge benefit. So, some of our clients do a lot of testing and we do adjust on the fly. And I think that's a great thing, because it's like, oh, I just spent my money. It's out there. It's not working. I guess we'll just hit it up next time. No, if I spend a little bit more, I'm going to get more out of this. Right. So I think you definitely hit it right on the head with that focus of getting the testing, getting the feedback. It's once again, it's a relationship. How is your work relating to the consumer, and getting those connections so you can adapt or die, right? Like it's a lot of the same things that are basically kind of over again. But I feel like, in this age, it's a lot easier to kind of adjust that stuff opposed to 15 years ago where you printed everything and it printed and that was it, the whole stop the presses kind of a thing, that's not real anymore. Like I can change a menu board on the fly, tomorrow, or social, you can kind of re-hit that thing. And you mentioned kind of reusing assets. I think that's one of the things that is a smart thing that clients do, right? You start off the year, you start off whenever of creating a library of assets that have, are evergreen, that can always be used, that, you spend X amount of dollars that your local agencies can use, you can use in global campaigns that you're just using them over and over again. So the cost of that asset goes down significantly just because, you planned ahead. So planning ahead, I know is easier said than done. But it's one of those things that can definitely help out your budgets as well too.
Yeah. Perfect. I think that's all the questions. I think that's all the questions we've got today. I've had none other through to me. Nick, thank you so much. It's been a joy to talk to another marketeer. As you can tell, as everyone can tell, we do enjoy, fellow marketers do enjoy talking to other marketers. But I know that for firsthand that TMS do amazing work. So please feel free to reach out to Nick. I will share the recording with everyone so you can share it with your teams or anyone who's not been able to make the day. And then last from me, thank you so much, Nick. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I would love to chat more about this. So if anybody has any questions or comments, hit me up on LinkedIn or wherever, and hopefully we can work together in the future.
All right, guys. See you later. Thanks again.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.